Welcome to ComSpark. We are live here in Cambridge, Massachusetts at MIT, attending the Chief Data Officer Information Quality Symposium, where the world leaders in data have gathered. My name is Matthew Duramo. I will be your guest host today. Joining me is Jaishen You, Director of Information and Data Access from the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Jaishen, appreciate it very much. How are you today?
Great, nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you as well. So we've got a couple questions lined up for you. If you don't mind, I'd say let's just kind of jump right into it, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Perfect. So since the CDO role is somewhat new, right? What percentage of your job is spent educating your job leaders about the power of data as that new gold currency, right? What that revenue driver is, and versus the percentage of managing other professionals?
Well, educating is a powerful word, but I will certainly do my part to promote and advocate. Mm-hmm. So I guess the magical answer to your question is it depends. Mm-hmm. So there are times that I spend days trying to organize data governance board meetings and prepare materials for my boss, who is the agency CDO. Okay. Sometimes I bring outside help to speak on behalf on topics such as federal data strategy or what responsibility that should fall under the purview of a CDO. But when it comes to managing other data professionals, the setting may be slightly different between the private sector and the government in terms of mission and vision and KPIs. But I think one thing that should be in common is how to keep a positive morale. Sure. And so to me, managing people, motivating staff, building a culture that that's sustainable for retaining talent is as important as making the deadlines and delivering data products. So I would say ideally I want to spend at least a quarter of the time, okay, if not more. Okay. And I want to add to that, CDO, like you said, it's a relatively new role. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a very fluid title or role. And this symposium has done a very good job in promoting that role or title so that people know that the work that CDO does and the work that CIO does are very different. But there are some other competing titles out there, mm-hmm, like CTO, mm-hmm, or CDAO. So we're not quite sure, where the exact responsibility falls in a few years. So hopefully in a relatively near future, we can see more of people sharing success stories of CDO and maybe less of advocating or educating, mm-hmm, other folks about what CDO does.
Okay, great. Yeah, absolutely appreciate that. Well, to roll back a few years, right? The characteristic, the word data, if you will, was a characteristic of marketing, right? Mm-hmm. But now it means so much more and has so much more value and attributes tied to it. So I guess the question is, what does data mean to you?
What does data mean to me? That's a great question. So let's push back 50 years. Around 1970, we have relational database. Mm-hmm. And then push back even further, another 60, 70 years, we have these sort of foundations of modern day statistics called Pearson, William Gossett, Ron Fisher. They sort of established a lot of current day statistics, untrained statistics, as you can tell.
Sure.
So data, to me, prior to what we talk about information quality, which is also a theme in the symposium, where people talk about completeness, consistency, accuracy, validity, uniqueness, all of that. Data, to me, let's see if we can do this in acronym. So okay, you need to know why we're collecting it. So you need to have desirability or demand. So there must be a reason and need for collecting that data. And then you need to have availability, right? So data needs to be attainable. And this includes, it has to be measurable. So can we get that data? And T, I suppose that's tossed in the timeliness. When do you need it? Because there's always a timestamp, even if it's not an attribute to the data. And last, let's say, appropriate. The record itself, it needs to be appropriate. Is it the right one? Is there some legality that you need to worry about? So I think that's pretty much what data means to me. And prior to when we talk about information quality.
That's a great breakdown. I know that. Thank you very much. So I guess how did data capture you, right? How did you get into the world of data? What draws you to it?
Well, I myself I'm always fascinated by numbers. Okay. So I had a training in math and computer science when I was undergrad, and then I got a PhD in statistics. So back in grade school, I was memorizing some high digits for fun, but I felt like it always draws to me when the numbers is associated with something, an attribute, not just a pure number. And I still admire folks who's into the pure math, studying the number theory. A lot of great minds. But for me personally, you need to attach something to it. It could be a person, could be just demographic, could be a dollar sign for profit, and a number of other things. I felt like I like to be a problem solver.
Yeah, I got to think, looking at numbers in that light, as you address them, it almost builds somewhat of a story, right? That you're able to grasp from it versus, to your point, just math theory. That's quite a different beast, and there are some great minds in it. But I would agree. I'd like to see kind of how that plays out as well. Well, hey, Jaishen, I absolutely appreciate all the insights that you provided us here today. Greatly appreciate the time, and want to thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. For more information on today's interview, please visit ComSpark.tech.